Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and welcome to the Saturday podcast of Comics Aficionados, where we basically talk about all things comic books, anything newsworthy within the week. Today, we're going to discuss some of the bigger issues. We're going to talk about, can DC Comics save HBO Max? It certainly seems like Warner Media thinks so with what they're doing with Wonder Woman 1984 and what they're doing with the Snyder Cut. We're going to talk about a Ten of Swords update. Definitely want to hear what Joe thinks about the recent Ten of Swords issues. We're going to talk about Yara Flor's future state. We're going to talk about the retconning of Franklin Richards and Dan Slott's subsequent meltdown. And with me today is a wonderful panel. I've already spoken about him. Independent writer, independent editor, award-winning editor, Joe Carallo. How you doing?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing cool. I'm doing great. I'm glad you could make it today.
Yeah.
Love having you on the channel.
Thank you.
Also with me is the great Jervain Dargan. He's about to be have you launched Animated Concepts yet? I don't think you have, right?
No, we're going to be doing a soft launch on the website in February, and then at that point we'll start thinking about and releasing projects later on in the year. But we'll keep everyone updated as it happens. And glad to be on today with Pele, Doc, and Joe. This is going to be fun as usual. Looking forward to it.
It's gonna be toy.
It's gonna be fun, Pele. It's gonna be fun.
Toy.
Also with me is the curmudgeon of critical himself, the saltiest man I've ever met. He's a comic retailer. He's an enormous comic collector. How you doing, Pele?
Yeah, all right. It's Saturday. The week was all right. Bagged and board comics for like 40 fucking hours this week, so my hands don't work. But I'm here. It's all right. How's everybody else?
Sounds like everyone's fine. Doc, we just recorded a couple of videos. One of them will be out tonight. Tomorrow will be our Ten of Swords This Week in X-Men. So we'll let we'll let some of the other guys give their thoughts on a little bit more than we do. But how you doing today, Doc?
I am doing great. Got all my frustration on the terribleness of X of Swords out, so I'm good. I have flushed the shitty comic toxins from my system.
Absolutely. Breen says as soon as Pele spoke, the sun came out.
Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
it must be shining out of my asshole. I don't know.
So it isn't. We're not just going to talk about physical comic books. Obviously, there has been an enormous undertaking from Warner Media when they acquired the DC characters, or when AT&T acquired Warner Media and the DC characters. They decided they were going to do a streaming platform, kind of like Netflix and all that stuff. Everyone's got a streaming platform. Theirs is HBO Max. It is premium priced. I think it's $15, and it has not been a very successful launch so far. In fact, I believe half the users eligible to use the platform aren't even using it so far, and they are going all in. It appears on the DC Comics content. And we are getting Wonder Woman 1984, I believe, is going to be in theaters, but it's at the same time it's going to be available on HBO Max. Obviously, they do have the Snyder Cut film of Justice League coming out. It's more like Lonesome Dove now. It's a mini series. I don't know, Jervain, do you think DC Comics characters can save HBO Max and pump those subscription rates up? Obviously, we saw that Disney Plus is doing gangbusters, but not so far for HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think one of the big things with Disney Plus, which we subscribe to, is that there is a lot of content, not just for like nostalgia for me. Like now I get to watch Spider-Man, His Amazing Friends, and Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That second show, which was brutally ripped away from me many, many years ago, and I'm still scarred. But there's also stuff that my kids can watch and I can share with them. We can bond together. With HBO Max, definitely in my circle, the only reason why some of us might jump on for like a week or for like that trial period is when the Snyder Cut comes out, just to see what's going on. Definitely, if they put Wonder Woman 84 on there, definitely would just jump on for a bit. But I don't see enough on there yet to like make me a regular streamer. But I think the DC content would help. For me, it would help if I get Super Friends like on demand. I might just be enough of a sucker to go for that $15. $15 a month.
The thing that makes Netflix and a lot of those other services, Disney Plus and Netflix rather popular, is the catalogs, like you said.
Yep.
If they've got a big catalog, you know, if it's real big, they keep coming back. That's what she said. But if they've got the goods, people keep coming back. They've got to have the catalog. Just because you get something shiny and new every once in a while, it's not going to keep people buying into your service, because people want to be able to binge watch, and that's what gets people. That's what gets butts in seats. And Amazon is good for that too, you know. Plus, you get the free shipping and shit. That's pretty awesome. But, you know, if these streaming services just do not have the catalogs that keep people on, so I don't know. It's just I don't think it's going to be enough. I really don't.
Well, part of the success of Disney Plus is their partnership with Verizon, AT&T, and all of Verizon.
It's Verizon, yeah.
With
AT&T
Fios,
would be HBOMax.
with Fios customers, and giving them all a year for free. That whether or not we still don't have a clue what, you know, we can call Disney Plus a success all day long, but we don't have a clue how many people are actually paying for it.
Yeah, we only know how many eligible people aren't actually using it. I believe I think it's 30 million eligible and only 15 million are actually using it. Something like that.
Yeah. So we don't have a clue on that. Now, all of these streaming services, you know, but at the same time, AT&T customers get HBO Max for free. So that helps too. So again, we're looking at who's actually making, you know, taking advantage of that. How many people are actually paying for the service? HBO Max has a decent catalog.
Here's the problem, Doc, and Gervain probably knows what I'm talking about. I've never seen anyone binge content quite like children, specifically my children. HBO Max does not have the kids show outside of like Looney Tunes that anything like Disney or even Netflix has.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I'll jump on Wes, but jump on Wes's point. But I also think Doc is right too. It's like we have Hulu, but we don't pay for Hulu in terms of subscribers. We get it as part of our now T-Mobile Sprint service. So, you know, basically we pay for Netflix. My wife has Amazon Prime, and we have the Disney Plus that we actually subscribe to. When it comes to HBO Max, if they can get all that boomerang stuff, and I guess they're bringing the DC universe stuff in it and get it under one platform, I think until this stuff kind of gets down to like basically 3 streaming services of like whichever the major media companies out there, it's going to be hard for any of these streaming services to survive without that element, like what Doc is saying, of it being part of a service that you already have. Because now what I subscribe to Hulu, we watch a lot of Hulu, but that's because it's there. But I don't know if I'd pay another price on top of the Disney Plus thing. I'd rather have all the Hulu stuff under Disney Plus and go from there. So I think at some point they're really going to have to consolidate all this content to allow for that binge watching for not only the kids but for the adults as well, and in between. Because on Hulu right now, as a family, I got sucked into watching this series, Make It or Break It, on Hulu. So pray for my soul. But it's basically gymnastic soap opera. But I have to admit, it's fairly entertaining.
I don't know which one it is, but there's one of the streaming services out there. Somebody probably knows this. I don't. They have Antiques Roadshow on it, and holy shit. It's like my wife will watch like 40 hours a week of Antiques Roadshow. I'm not joking. And
I can watch cooking shows like nobody's business.
You know, there's certain niches that they need. These. So if HBO Max can get on with somebody like, you know, like Wheeler Dealers or Pickers or something like that, and there's shows that people just sit and can watch, you know, 4 and 5 hours a day without batting an eye. You know, they can succeed, but, you know, having a new Snyder cut or having a new, you know, cool Wonder Woman movie isn't going to get people to stay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They need to consolidate it. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have like, you know, American Pickers or something like that people will sit there and just watch than have a, you know, a tent pole, you know, $80 million film. You know, if I was on the board, it'd be like, okay, great, we just blew $80 million. How many, television shows could we have bought for that? With 1,000 episodes each.
Well, you got to look at who owns a lot of those networks. I think American Pickers and a lot of those kind of shows, those are what, A&E.
Yeah,
and I think A&E is owned by.
Channel.
But I think it's all owned by Viacom, which is owned by CBS. So that's going to be all that stuff will end
Access.
up, on CBS All Access.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with a lot of this shit. There's the streaming. Everybody saw the success of Netflix and said we want to do that.
Yep.
Because Netflix was a way to get away from cable. And so they're just turning it into app cable instead of cable.
Yep.
Basically. Have you tried using Apple TV Plus? It's just an interface so that you can subscribe to channels.
Yes. It's literally just it's a la carte cable service.
Yep. And they were always looking to do that. Yep. At a certain point. Yep.
Yeah. HBO Max still isn't streaming in 4K though, right? Like that's still been a problem. That I don't think any of their offerings are in 4K here.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's not even worldwide, so it's kind of strange. So sometimes I'll get some of the HBO Max stuff as far as the DC content on Netflix here in the Philippines, but of course we don't even have Disney Plus yet, so it's been disappointing.
Well, how many people in America though realistically have the bandwidth for 4K to really look decent? I mean, especially HDR. I mean, you're looking HDR 4K content, you've got to have what, 40, 50 megabit connection to make.
That's how you could do it in Korea. They had that everywhere. It was free. It was amazing.
It's 5G can do it, but there's no real infrastructure in place in most states to provide that,
especially outside of
Metropolis,
downtown.
Outside of Metropolis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm in the suburbs, and I could get, I think, I can get a gigabit connection if I wanted to. I'm not going to pay for it. Hell no. I'm on FiOS. I have decent service, but there's no way I could stream 4K on what I have right now. I could upgrade to one of their higher priced and capped services just fine, but no, I'm not going to. I mean, but I'm also only 10 miles out of downtown. You get 50 miles out of a major metro or even a minor metropolitan area, and there's just not the infrastructure for it. Once you get more than about 100 feet from your neighbor, they're not. you're just not going to get it. Once your house is more than 100 feet from your neighbor's house, it's not happening.
So, Doc, I mean, what do you think the chances are? Are they going to get a lot of people to come in and stay in, or do you think a lot of people will show up just to see Wonder Woman 1984, see the Snyder Cut, and then they're going to bounce out?
I think that they'll have better chance with Wonder Woman 1984 than necessarily the Snyder Cut. Honestly, I don't see the Snyder. I understand people want to see it. A lot of people do. But I don't think that that's going to be the draw that they think it's going to be. I think it's going to do much better in theaters than it will for a subscription streaming service. I think people will show up for Wonder Woman 1984. And then, I mean, I've never bothered to use HBO Max. I have no idea what it looks like. I don't know how deep the library is. And you know what? Depending on how deep their library is, not just for their DC stuff, but they need, stuff like...
I think they thought their HBO shows were really going to sell, your Game of Thrones, Sopranos.
But I think they also need a lot more of like the network dramas. And I don't think the sitcoms. They brought, what did they bring back? Friends and The Office.
Fresh Prince. Yeah.
Okay, Fresh Prince might do something there, but isn't that just a special? Or is that an actual season?
No, I think it's a series. Yeah, and especially since I think they're trying to do the reboot, they want to bring attention to that as well, which may end up on the HBO Max. Who knows? But yeah, I agree with you, Doc. The Snyder Cut. I think it might even do just better on home video as it is than necessarily keeping HBO Max. I think a lot of people is just used to, if they want to watch something like that, they'll just jump on for the trial period, watch that, maybe watch whatever else is on there for a bit, and then jump right off. We did that with Disney Plus initially, just because my kids went. No, was it Disney Plus? Whatever they had out, the Disney Channel. We jumped on through PlayStation, something like that, for like a week, so they could watch Descendants 3. As soon as that was done, we canceled it. Went back to watching regular TV. I think someone put in the comments, it's just way too much TV out there, way too many streaming services, and it's like, if you're going to take the a la carte approach, you got to kind of limit that a la carte approach to like maybe 4 or 5 streaming channels at the most. But like, I'm not interested in having BBC America, like BritBox. I mean, I like Doctor Who.
CBS.
I'm not going to subscribe to. I'm not going to subscribe to BritBox to watch Doctor Who.
They can burn BBC to the ground now what they did with Doctor Who. I mean, it's just.
Well, but I honestly, everybody's trying to recreate what Netflix had 5 years ago, except for the appeal of Netflix 5 years ago is that it didn't matter what fucking certain channel your show was on, it ended up on Netflix.
Yeah.
That was kind of the appeal. Now it's now you got to figure out, oh wait, which channel is this?
Yeah.
That's
Where
on
is it at now?
CBS, so I got to buy all access. Oh wait, this one's on this channel, so I need this service to get that one. It's too damn complicated.
Yeah. So, Joe, are you surprised? I believe Wonder Woman 1984 is like a $200 million production. It's not going to end up getting the theatrical release, and it was always going to be a gamble. We don't know really when theaters are going to be up and running. How many theaters are we going to lose before that even happens? So, like, how viable are theaters going to be even in 2021? But that they aren't even going to try it, that they've decided they're going to kind of eat that cost and invest that into HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, the way theaters have been going now, I mean, theaters have been on the decline for years. And, who knows at the end of all of this, hopefully like early next year, whatever it is, that once everything's open, you're going to have people who are already out of the habit of going to the movies and got used to watching stuff at home, who aren't necessarily going to be rushing out. So
we went to the theaters last night. We went to the theater last night, and they're doing old movies.
Yeah.
And shockingly, I shit you not, at 9:00 when we went to go see the 9:00 show, Saturday Night Fever, the director's cut of Saturday Night Fever, half the theater was full. And I was like, holy shit. There's like 50 people in here to watch Saturday Night Fever.
I think that's something that you're going to see more of.
yeah.
Especially these 15, 20 screen, 24 screen theaters. They're going to be doing 12 screens of new films and 12 screens of old movies.
Yeah.
Also, I really do see, especially in more suburban and rural areas, a huge growth again in the return of drive-ins.
The one that's near me is really popular during the spring through fall. I mean, it's really, really damn popular.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. It's fine. It's just like, so I think it's unpredictable where things are going to go right now with theaters. So, and hitting those same like box office numbers with these like $1 billion superhero movies. So that the movie's been done for a while, it's going to age no matter what. Like, at some point you just have to get the movie out there. So I think they just had to, pull the trigger on that. And I think what you're probably going to see, since we've been seeing stuff like these like spin-offs from these movies that they have planned out, like Peacemaker and Gotham PD, that they're just going to sort of take a cut and paste kind of approach to the DC IP. I think you're going to start seeing stuff like like they might look at something like Birds of Prey, for example, and be like, well, the movie had a very modest profit. People liked Harley Quinn. Maybe we'll just spin out and do like a direct to HBO Max like Harley Quinn solo, film or something like that. Or maybe they'll be like, let's not spend the money on, Margot Robbie. Let's just have like the Birds of Prey characters, but we need something to sell this, so let's have them fight a couple of like big Batman villains, and then maybe that'll get people in, and they'll just like kind of take characters and just piece them together into different limited series to see what they can do in terms of content.
So, Gervain, just thinking about the viability of theaters going forward, after 9/11, I think it took like 6-7 months before people like in their mind could be comfortable being in large gatherings. It took a long time for people to be willing to get into gatherings. That was one day. Obviously, that was a very traumatic event. It's something I think most adults and most even young adults that experience that, it's something you'll never forget. But this has been going on for like 10 months now. How long do you think it's going to take for people's psyches to heal enough to where they're going to be, a majority of people are even going to be willing to go into a theater?
I mean, I think it depends. I would say, based on, if you used very roughly our recent election as example, I think about roughly half the country is like, damn it, I'm full steam ahead, and we're going to the theaters if they opened up tomorrow. I think the other half is cautious about it but wants to do it. So I use myself as an example. I'm a fully disclosed. I own stock in both AMC and Cinemark, so I'm rooting for them to succeed. But we are very interested as a family. AMC is offering, like Paley said, they're offering where you can rent out the theater for like anywhere from $99 to $350 to watch either like the older movies on the $99 end and some of the newer releases from the $149 to $350 end. And like, I am very interested for Christmas and being able to rent out a theater for my daughters to see The Cruise. They're like, you can rent out a theater for like, I think it's going to probably be like $150, $200 to do so, for you to be able to take 20 people to the theater. And it's like, as my wife and I were talking about it, if you go back to before COVID, you're going to the theater, just for the four of us, you would almost run $100 between the tickets and the refreshments and all that. So it was kind of like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool to rent out the theater for about $200, watch The Cruise, and kind of have that experience of getting out. I mean, I agree. I think theaters are now part of a bigger ecosphere of being able to watch the films at home. But I think there's something about being able to go out and see the movie with other people is what the appeal is. And I think after the whole pandemic, you're just going to have a situation where there's just going to be a lot of pent up demand to just get out your house. So I think 6 months tops before everybody gets comfortable. But I think I would even say maybe even less than 2 months, because I think people are just ready just not to be indoors all the time. And some people are indoors a lot more than the rest of us.
I think you're going to see an opportunity for a lot of, especially some of the theater chains that to try a lot of different new models over the next 2 to 4 years. Everything from dinner and a show all together, like literally rip out 2/3 of the seats and make little kind of booth tables with the theater, like the little curved booths with a table in the middle that you have to get in there 45 minutes before the movie starts so that they can take your order for your food and dinner. So it's like literally a dinner and movie all in one spot. You might see some try that. You're going to see more of the trying to make it go into the theater an experience. But I think you're also going to see a lot more of some of the smaller chains go literally bare bones. cheap people, get people in there where it's, you're not selling 45 different things out of your concession stand. You got popcorn, soda, and fucking pretzels, and candy, and that's it in your concession stand. And you just do no super reclining giant plushy seats, just basic shit, and see how that works.
I'm maybe it's because I'm getting old, but I like the big ass seats.
I do too.
I like to be able to have like a beer. I love the one of the local theaters we go to, because they serve beer, wine. They don't have a big menu, but you can get pizza, dogs, stuff like that, hamburger. You can get a lot of different types of foods, and it's pretty cool. You've got a chair, you got a thing that comes down, and you can have like your little TV tray kind of thing, and that's not bad.
No, I get that, but my point is you're going to start experimenting with a lot of different. So you might have 5 theaters close to your, within reasonable driving distance to go see a movie, and they all might have a wholly different, one place you go in there and it's like $4 for your ticket, but the other place is like $50, but you get all this stuff with it. So you might have all different models for how a theater is to see which ones work, because I don't think anybody's going to be able to predict how it works coming out of this.
Absolutely.
And AMC already started experimenting with this beforehand. So before COVID hit, where you could go in the theater and have a premium experience of eating, or just have the regular movie experience sitting up closer to the front. So this just accelerates things. Yeah.
We're definitely going to see the power of DC Comics as far as, can they bring in an audience to a streaming platform? Will Wonder Woman 1984, people that were excited for the movie to see it in theaters, are they going to go up there and sign up for the service, watch it at home? Is the Snyderverse or the Snyder Cut, is it going to be worth the $40 million, whatever they spent on it, to revamp it, basically turn it into a 4-hour miniseries? Obviously, Warner Media has a lot of confidence that these properties are going to bring people in, because so far HBO Max has been abysmal. That's one of the reasons we've had so much restructuring. We've had a couple of rounds of layoffs and whatnot, because it just hasn't been what they needed it to be. So obviously they're going to put a lot of emphasis on that. So,
I just want to see Dark Side on the fucking silver screen. That's what I want out of this. That's what I want out of the Snyder Cut. But if they give me that, I'll be happy.
I believe the plan is that you will be able to see the 4-hour version of the movie in theaters on a limited basis at sometime in the future. So let's move on to actual comic books. There's a lot of interesting stuff, and I wanted to hear Joe's take on this. I know you are a huge X-Men fan.
Yes.
We had Ten of Swords. Obviously, it's wrapping up. We got, chapters 17, 18, and 19. Started out with X-Force. I already made a video on this, so if people want to see exactly my thoughts on X-Force, but this week it was X-Force, Hellions, and Cable. What are your thoughts on Ten of Swords this far into it? Is it what you expected or not?
I don't know if it's what anyone working on it expected at this point. Certainly not the artists, I don't think. I think there were probably people who didn't understand the scripts they were getting. But, Hellions didn't really deal with any of that. At least it was kind of a breath of fresh air after being waterboarded. But
who didn't cringe? Who didn't cringe whenever you had Cyclops talking to Cable, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. Who hurt you, son? Point them out, and I'll go beat them up for you."
It's the thing with Ten of Swords is the marketing, all the stuff around it. It's a big tonal difference from what we were told we were basically going to get from House of X Powers of 10. And it's that tonal shift that I think is causing a lot of people to be upset, because the storyline of Saturnine doing insane, stupid things that make no sense in a tournament that doesn't matter. There's a place in the Marvel universe where you can tell that story. That, you know what, if like Kieran Gillen and Jamie McLeavy came back to do Young Avengers, and you stuck it in there, that like kind of storyline could have worked for like a 6-issue kind of arc or whatever, where, you know, the Young Avengers are doing all this stuff. Even like Champions or something like that. Like, that's more where something like this would fit. But you're trying to get an audience that it doesn't read this kind of stuff to read it, and that causes a conflict and tension, and I think that's kind of the core kind of problem overall with what's going on. On top of even if you have this long-term plan, you need incremental payoffs in the story. There haven't really been any incremental payoffs. You know, when you go to other, you know, comics that are telling long form stories, you at least like, oh, maybe in a couple of issues they'll defeat a villain or they'll uncover something. But everything has been stretched out where, you know, you're dropping $100 at this point to find out what the ending of this is going to be, and by the constant tonal shifts, it's like I don't even care anymore. Like what are they going to do? Like Saturnine could do anything. She could just be like, everyone wins and gets a free pretzel, and everyone will be like, okay, yeah, it makes as much sense as everything else. And you know, it's I don't. But between that, the constant shift, like how many dimensions are we dealing with now? You know, we're between, you know, everyone on the island and Mojoverse getting involved, and you know, it's like what is happening? We're in so many different directions, and it feels like the writers' room approach had good intentions, and I thought this was going to be like a really good sort of way to go about things, but it seems like it's encouraging a lot of ideas all at once in a way that's not gelling here. And
well, it's decision by committee. The whole thing feels like decision by committee, but everybody on the committee is stoned out of their ass. I mean, they're blazed out of their minds. They don't know really what they want to do, but you know, they've got a committee for it, and apparently they aren't sharing emails with each other exactly where they're going. So it's like, holy shit, people. It's insane.
It's that, and then I don't want to take up too much time on this. I know other people are going to want to jump in on this, but like I also don't understand the retcon of Apocalypse. Like I didn't need emo dad Apocalypse. It's really weird, and he's already like a really. Like he's a good villain, and then to do this whole sort of thing where he has a wife and kids out of like more or less nowhere, and he stayed behind because he was the weakest. Like you're just reading all this stuff and going like, oh, why? What purpose does this serve? How is this like? What story are we trying to tell?
They really had to make Apocalypse look like a cuck.
You know,
they really did. They had to make Apocalypse just look like a complete pansy, and like, you know, it's like, well, I am the weakest of the family.
I just blame Tinny Howard's white middle-aged lonely woman fanfic for it.
Why does Apocalypse have to be a pussy? You know, it's just, come on, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that to them.
I don't understand that, and it's you know, it's weird because a lot of the people involved I like as individuals. I like on a personal basis. I've liked other work they've done. This is just, it's more than that feeling of it's not for me. It's more that, like,
This is for nobody.
well, yeah, it's not what we were sort of promised in the get-go. I do think that the Saturnine tournament thing, like in a Young Avengers setting or something like that, like a goofy kind of thing, like there could be an audience for that people would gravitate to. I don't. It's not the audience they were going for, and you can't do a Jonathan Hickman hard sci-fi, stoic, serious story that devolves into everyone gets points for whatever, and
puzzle contest, killing
Yeah.
a cat. There was a mirror
Dance
steering
offs.
contest, a dance off. There appeared to be some type of play that they were enacting.
Yeah.
this is like a 1 or 2 issue Mojoverse kind of story. That's like somehow a 22 issue $100 crossover event.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is that entire office trying to figure out exactly how much bullshit can we feed X-Men Raiders while still taking their money, and they don't leave.
Yep.
But I mean, it's weird because a lot of these people, I mean, Jordan White, before he became the head at the X group, was an assistant editor for the X books before he was in Star Wars and all of that, and he was assistant editing a bunch of books that were coming out at the time, like I want to say like late 2000s, early 2010s that I really enjoyed, like he was assistant editor for a big chunk of like Peter David's X Factor, that investigations series he did, and that was good.
I have to ask though, do you honestly believe that Peter David, of all writers, gave a single solitary fuck with that borderline haberdashery owner, ukulele boy, had to ever say about any of his work?
Well, I mean, I think Peter David has a certain reputation that he's. I don't think he really cares what anyone thinks. So
yeah. I don't think that. So then, giving Jordan credit for literally just being there and getting ignored. I mean, great. Maybe everybody should just fucking ignore him. It seemed to work out for Peter David.
Well, it's just as far as the series itself, the X of Swords, a lot of it had to do with the fact that they don't understand the characters, and this keeps coming back to this with involving the X-Men and the whole Age of X-Men, everything. You got writers on there that don't understand the characters. You throw a character like Mad Jim Jaspers into X of Swords, and without understanding the character at all. You don't understand his backstory. You don't understand the fact that he would have killed half the people in the damn place within the first 20 minutes. Because he's just that way. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. He's a psychopath. But they're trying to make him act like he's just comic relief. Yes, he is funny. Yes, he does try to, do funny things. But usually his comedy involves, how can I turn this person inside out?
Kind of like Joker?
Yeah.
Yeah, but on a cosmic scale. So, it's like, oh, I'm gonna take out this entire planet of people and I'm going to remove their bungholes. He did this. He just wanted to see what would happen if he removed all the assholes on everybody on a planet. So, yeah, but they don't understand this character. They just throw him in there and like he's going to be in a competition or something, please.
No, I get that. I think that, like I was an X fan before this. I'll be an X fan. After this, even if I dip out for a bit or whatever, or if I stick to some of the older stuff, it doesn't from the beginning. It felt like a lot of these characters weren't being written who they were. I do think we're focused a lot on the X books, especially as fans of them. This is more of a systemic problem in the big two, that like it's not the X books stand out, but for a while, I think a lot of characters in a lot of books haven't quite felt how they should, and I feel like that's like a bigger problem.
Yeah,
Iron Man.
Somebody was talking about Mad Jim
now too.
Yeah, Jim Jaspers is like on the level of Franklin Richards. He's like Galactus level power. He controls his own universe. That he comes to the main Marvel universe just to play around. Come on.
Well, I think with Joe, I agree with Joe to this point, is that I do think systemically there are some things in terms of, and we've talked about this on a number of occasions, in terms of just generally, I always bring it down to craft, and I also think Perch a lot of times talks about it just from business, not understanding how to do those things correctly. But I think when talking about the X-Men franchise in particular, I was a huge Legion of Superheroes fan at one point. It just got to the point where they just killed the franchise. They just killed it. It just did not represent what it used to represent at one point, and not in a good way. Like at one point, it felt like they were writing the ship with the book Legionnaires. But then after that, it just became so unrecognizable as a property, as characters, that when the new version came out, regardless of Bendis and Ryan Sook being on it, I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. I took the free Legion ring as the promotion, and I kept it moving. I'm just done with Legion of Superheroes at this point, other than when I bought the Blu-ray of the animated series.
Sure.
And I guess my question to the panel is, do we think that X-Men is at that point now? Because to me, it feels like X-Men has crossed the Rubicon on this. House of X, Powers of 10, it was a great promise, but it's like if I think at this point, I mean, you never say never, but I just don't know if there's anybody who knows what to do with the X-Men anymore.
Nobody in that company does. But I think, Joe brought up a good point. I think that at some point, and honestly, you talked about Ukulele Boy being the assistant editor in that late 2000s, early 2010s. That's when the X-Men fell apart. That's when they lost tens of thousands of readers. That's where everybody started checking out. And then they kept trying to do things to bring readers back, but just by doing more of the things that everybody hated. There was some time near in that era where Marvel decided that the characters don't need to be themselves anymore. You can make them whatever you want them to be, because otherwise it is exclusionary to not have, you were excluding everybody that's not Peter Parker from being Spider-Man. No, you're really not. Tell them to go find something else. They stopped looking at the characters as a defined set of continuity, character traits, even physical, size. Look at Wolverine. He went from being 5'3" to over 6 foot, and now he's back to about 5'7".
Yeah.
They can't even keep that shit straight because they started deciding to change the characters to appeal to something, temporarily.
Yeah, they increased Wolverine's size to make him look more like Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I guess they've got somebody else in mind that's about 5'7" that's going to be taking on Wolverine in the movies. I don't know.
But my point is,
how much of this is
they stopped. Characters stopped being themselves and started becoming incredibly malleable to the point where they are nothing. Once you change, when you try to make something that's for everybody, it becomes for nothing. It becomes for nobody because it no longer is the thing that it is. you need that. There's certain things, there's certain characteristics to characters that make them appealing, and they've eliminated a lot of that.
So I want to get kind of back to Ten of Swords, and specifically I want to talk about one of the issues, Joey. It was the Cable issue. It was almost like a tale of two comic books. The first half of it I thought was absolute trash, and then the second half of it had like the best moment of the entire story so far. It doesn't feel like it's one writer. How can in the first half of that comic you essentially assassinate the character of Cable, and even Kid Cable, who when he was introduced in Extermination, was murdering him, the older version of himself, because he couldn't get it done, was like chopping the wings off of other mutants and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, to where they just, like, he's crying for his parents, and he can't kill somebody. And then the second half, with what they did with Gorgon, where he basically goes out on a sword like a badass samurai, and it evens the score. I'm flabbergasted.
Because it's not one writer. It's the... You have the writer's room approach. You have the main writer who maybe needs to get something across. But then when you're dealing with the other people who are like, well, I'm working on this book and this is how the character needs to be. So I need you to add this bit. Someone might be doing something with Cable in another issue where they're like, I need this like emotional hook. We need to do this to him so I can do this thing. So you're going to have to do that in this issue. Or, maybe who was writing that had the Cable thing, and someone else was like, oh, well, we need this sword fight, and maybe they were suggesting the more interesting idea. But that's where I think you're also seeing a lot of the collision is that writer's room approach.
Yeah, I mean, Pele, did people notice that in Cable? Did you get that feedback? It's like, what is going on here? It's completely schizophrenic.
Everybody was laughing. Everybody was laughing about, my dad will come and beat you up type moment, and it just kind of like, it kind of just soured everyone, I think.
Cable was crying because the mean girl on the playground rubbed his face in the mud.
Yeah. He was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Did she hurt you? Well, I'll go get her. She hurt you. It's like, oh my God. No.
All right, Doc. Kyle Hawk wants to read more about Apocalypse. What do you recommend?
About everything up until 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think Apocalypse Apocalypse kind of really killed the character around the time that they did the 12.
Start with X Factor 5. Yep. Start with X Factor 5. The first X Factor series, and go forward.
Yeah. Up until the story arc, the 12, that ran in Uncanny X-Men and X-Men. They kind of tried to redeem him a little bit after that, but he was never quite the same. But everything up until the 12. So you got about 18 years of really good comics there to dig through. 15 years.
So there's not a specific, like, Joe, can you think of a specific story or trade that you think if he picks it up, he'll get what he wanted out of Apocalypse?
I mean, the trade would probably be the Fall of the Mutants, and if you like that, like Executioner's Song after that, you should be able to figure out what happened in between, or you could, fill in the gaps. But those are the two that I think both are available. I know the Fall of the Mutants trade's still available. I think Executioner's Song is still available in the trade.
And if you like the more like the Egypt side of his stuff, all of the Uncanny X-Men and Cable and X-Force books that were coming out around the time of Onslaught were good, because it really kind of explored a lot of that, as well as the Rise of Apocalypse miniseries that came out around that time too.
Yeah.
That's always good. That's a good Apocalypse stuff.
So, Jermaine, you were smart. You've already dipped out on Dawn of X, right?
Oh yeah, no, I except for the main X-Men title, and I was not going to go for the whatever it was, the 6-issue approach to it. I think that was part of the problem why, and we think we talked about this last week, why I dipped out on X-Men in the first place. I'm not interested in one title and 5 spinoffs. I think it diffuses the whole approach to what you're trying to do. And I agree with Joe. I think I was willing to do X-Men, not the rest of the titles, but the tonal shift from House of X to Powers of 10 to Dawn and X, it's just like you're reading two different stories, 2 different books. And I don't get what they're trying. I don't get what they're trying to do. As much as I didn't like Hickman's Secret Wars, I definitely enjoyed the whole New Avengers going back and forth. I thought it was tighter in terms of the story. I could appreciate the different approaches, even though I thought it was a little confusing at times, because it seemed like he was jumping from different books into those 2 main storylines. But basically, it really is just a hot mess, and I think it's because of that tonal shift. As someone said in the chat, the minute he made Hickman, whoever it was, made villains out of the Golden Girls, it was just like, who basically came in and just whooped the X-Men like it was nothing, then left, and we still haven't heard from him since. It's just like, where is this going? And I agree with Joe. At some point when you're reading this, because I had to, at times for friends, I will do like little mini focus groups for some books. People like payoffs within the same issue that they're reading. If you set something up in one at the beginning of the issue, their expectation, and I'm gonna say casual readers, maybe more experienced readers, but I think more regular readers expect the same thing too. You're not looking for something that you set up in the first page of an issue to pay off in issue 6 of the series down the line. Because I can tell you, some of those people are not going to get to issue 6 because they're like, you did that. Well, what was that all about? And that's what Dawn of X feels like. It feels like you're doing something over here, you're doing something over there, you're doing something over here. We're going to go someplace, 10 of Swords, and then you're off to the races with something else completely different. So yeah, I checked out after about issue 12 of the X-Men, and at this point, I'm just picking up issues that basically have Stefano Caselli in it, just because it's Stefano Caselli. I know that I'm in for Just Dance 2020 with Storm and Death, but I don't get what he's doing. I don't get what this is about. This is, to me, some of the in terms of that systemic piece that Joe was talking about, this is some of the worst examples of that, because it's like, I would pity a casual reader walking into this mess. I would pity them. I would.
I'm still of the opinion that Hickman mentally and emotionally checked out of this after he did House of X and Powers of X.
Yeah, he shot his load early.
Ever since then, he's fine to take the paycheck to stick his name on shit, but he just decided to pass the buck and the actual workload onto a bunch of untalented hacks. And I'm sorry, I know Joe knows a lot of these guys, but they're writer wise, half that writer's room doesn't deserve to be published, period.
Yeah.
No,
not even on X-Men. They just don't deserve to be published. They're not good writers. Sorry.
Just because you're not ready for X-Men doesn't mean you don't deserve to be published. Maybe they just weren't ready for prime time.
No, look, I'm sorry. Jerry Duggan, Tinny Howard,
Duggan,
Vita Ayala, cool. None of them have written a fucking thing that's even worth the paper that it's printed on in their careers.
I just told you, read Savage Avengers. It's perfectly fine. It's a good comic book. Everybody's just not funny.
His Deadpool for years was fucking terrible.
Because it's supposed to be funny.
Everything I've ever read with his name on it is fucking terrible.
Well, read Savage Avengers and you'll change your mind.
I've given him like 100 issues of other things. I'm not giving him another dime.
All right, calm down, Doc. Calm down.
All right.
Doc and I already talked about all the Ten of Swords stuff this week. That will be up on the channel tomorrow. Let's talk to another controversy. I'm sorry, Gervais. Let's go over to the Franklin Richards retcon. Hey, Lane, what was the reaction that Franklin Richards was never a mutant? That when he was a child, he used his cosmic power to change every cell in his body to basically have an X gene, but he is actually not mutant. and he's no longer welcome on Krakoa.
Yeah, it's just shenanigans. Everybody's like, "Oh, bullshit. This is bullshit." You know, just kind of like, you know. And I agree with them. It's just lazy. It is absolutely lazy. It is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. You know, could he have done it? Sure. He's Franklin Richards. Before he got, you know, his powers limited, you know, he basically was like the Beyonder. You know, he could do anything he wanted to do. He's a reality warper. But, come on. Just that he did it because he wanted to fit in. Oh, come on. You know, that just doesn't... That is just so... It's so lazy, and it's so stupid, and it's so poorly done. It's just... No. What the hell?
He's the timeless child, Pele. Come on.
Oh, God.
I just had to do that to you.
Oh, thanks. Yes. Twist the knife a little more. But yeah, it's just, it kills me. It absolutely kills me that, you know, they can't find a reasonable way to deal with this issue. No, they had to just completely just screw up another decades worth of writing and story and development on this character for nothing. You know, it's just they don't care. They don't care at all.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, because when you look at what was going on in X-Men in terms of setting up a payoff of how Franklin will be involved with the X-Men in the far future, it's like, now that you see them kind of stepping into this, I think there was interest with people who have seen that, to see that kind of story pay off in real time as he develops that relationship with the X-Men and lead up to that. So now you go to
Xavier being a complete butthole. You know, it's like, oh yeah, this happened, and I'm not going to let you back on Krakoa. I'm not sure why you did this. It's something you're just going to have to work out for yourself. Get out. It's like, what the hell?
My question is... Well, go ahead.
He literally said that. You know, this is something you're just going to have to work out on your own. I don't have time to spend with you.
Well, my question is, if Franklin Richards' powers are essentially alchemy, you change the entire nature of a thing. He can change it on a fundamental level. It is not just a surface level change.
Yeah.
It's not just slapping a new coat of paint on things.
Yeah, it's reality warping.
Yes. So if you've changed reality, isn't the changed reality real?
Yes.
I mean, it is. So therefore, if he had changed reality to have an X gene,
then he's a mutant.
Is a mutant.
Yeah.
This is not complicated.
Yep. There's a power.
If he changed everybody on Earth to have the X gene, everybody would be mutants.
Yes.
You know, it's just the way it is. And back in the old days, he could have done that. You know, so it's like, you know, you're mad that you didn't get, you know, the steak dinner you wanted because, you know, it wasn't cooked the way you like it. Well, it's still steak. You know, it's not, you know, you may not like the fact that, you know, it's grass-fed instead of grain-fed, but it's still a steak dinner, you know.
I mean, look.
And if you're going to go ahead. No, go ahead. Just real quick. If you're going to go an interesting way with this, then the thing is that the way you differentiate Franklin Richards from some of the other stories or characters like this, because you're talking about basically he's a Scarlet Witch or even a sentient cosmic cube, is that now you have somebody who's using that power who basically has had more full faculties of it or more control of it than other people who have displayed this ability. But this idea of, and as much as I hate to do this idea of basically introducing the child in a way choosing his gender, it's like like that's what it felt like to me reading it. It was just like, okay, I kind of get it, but it's like you've done it, and it's like, and now what? And what does it mean? Because you just spent a whole series where his family has gone toe to toe with the very people who are kicking him to the curb because they're like, well, we can take care of him in a way that you can't. And then the minute that he is found out that he's not quote unquote a mutant because he basically uses mutant abilities to do that very thing, it's just like, again, what's the payoff? What's the point? Where are you going with this? I think there was just another more interesting way they could have done it.
Well, I mean, you can see it though. He can fundamentally change and alter his own DNA. You see it in the change of hair color.
Yeah.
Franklin Richards was a blonde. He was born a blonde. He was always a blonde. Now he has black hair. He doesn't dye it. He just decided he wanted black hair.
Yeah.
And it fundamentally changed his DNA. It didn't just put black dye over his hair. His hair now grows black. That is a genetically determined factor. When he changes his own genes, I mean, this isn't, okay. I understood like the making the trans analogy here, but again, he's not just changing his appearance. He's fundamentally altering his biology and his genetics. And that is the major difference between Franklin Richards and I know they were trying, he got into it for saying that this was, turf nonsense.
Yeah.
Except for it's not like he was wearing, he wasn't wearing a suit that emitted, X gene radiation or whatever. He has an X gene now.
Yeah. He made it's like they're saying it's like they're saying that trans people are bad because I'm just saying they're saying the writer's saying because he chose what he was going to be. So I guess choosing what you're going to be is not kosher, and you can't be what you want to be if you choose it. That's what they're saying. So that's anti-trans, isn't it?
I'll leave that. I'll leave that to the experts.
But isn't that anti-trans at that point?
Now we're getting into the Dan Slott is a turf argument that was absurd.
But I'm just saying, it could be looked at different ways here.
Maybe that was the point of the storyline.
Maybe the X-Men really are bad guys in their eyes, and they're like, okay, fine, they're.
Joe, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think it's a lot to think that Dan Slott would have put that, was aiming for any kind of metaphor with that. I think it was just a plot point that he needed that to happen for whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
I think it's a pissing contest between him and the X office on who gets control in the not too distant future over Frank.
But it is certainly something that's going to piss off the SJWs to no end, and he should have known better.
I mean, I do think he should have been a little more, aware of that. That's something that would pop up in my mind when putting something together. But Dan Slott is an institutionalist at Marvel. He's been there almost as long as Tom Brevoort at this point, working his way up from, being, what was he? Was an art, he was the art return assistant or something like that in the very beginning, in the early 90s. So he has a lot of clout and is maintaining a certain, control over what he's doing. So it would make sense that he would want to exert some of that over what's going on. And I don't think that's an inherently negative thing. I think that's just a natural thing that people do. When you're at a certain point, you want to be able to tell your story, and he might have a story that he thinks is great in his mind that this needs to happen, or this is all set up for House of M2, House of R, and since Civil War II happened, might as well do a sequel to House of M and
House of F.
Yeah, it's just it's a lot to think about and want to take in.
One of my customers was saying that when Franklin did that with his own genes and he added the X, factor or whatever to his genes that turned him into a mutant. That's what caused his powers to start draining now. And that if he undid that and removed the X gene, that his powers would return back to normal.
Yeah.
And that might be part of it. So I don't know.
Well, if he doesn't have his powers, how can he change himself back?
Well, I mean, he would have to save up his powers because the way it works now,
Like his dad would have to remove them.
Yeah. Yeah. Is somebody
know he
else
can
would
do
have
that,
to
but-
remove?
But it was
would have
removed
to
from his
change-
head by Charles Xavier, correct?
Do what?
Yeah, he
X-Men
was.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
The last panel.
the
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
or the designs for it were removed from
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was
Reed's
that was-
head, and he would be aware, but he'd never be able to bring it back.
Right.
Mhm.
But, they could just talk to somebody like Jim Jaspers, offer him a lot of money or something. I don't know, money wouldn't be good for Jim. But, offer somebody like that, that has cosmic powers and say, fix my kid, But,
But yeah, I think he probably got it. They had to be expecting some blowback. I don't anticipate that Dan Slott was expecting the turf analogies or even the blackface analogies.
nobody
And,
expects the turf analogies.
But the part of why I think this is something that there should have been a little more awareness on is it was only last year when Rosenberg was dealing with some of that stuff in terms of what was that Uncanny X-Men issue where they killed off Wolfsbane?
Rain, yeah.
So when that happened, there was similar blowback. So that was confusing to me in terms of like, well, you guys dealt with this last year. To be a little more sensitive, a little more aware of these kind of issues. But
And Chelsea Kane also had the similar thing happen to her, and I think Gail Simone as well, correct? For different reasons.
Yeah, Chelsea's a little different because it was a creator-owned book, so she's not going to have that same kind of support network that you would hope you would get at like the big two of like an editors reading things and being like, oh, this would, come out. But I mean, those sort of things, they blow up for a little bit and they sort of go away. I think most people have forgotten the Rosenberg issue, the Gail Simone issue with Plastic Man. And
they should.
Yeah, people get upset and then they understand where people are coming from and, they kind of, brush it aside. I think especially with the X-Men, it gets difficult because there's always been an issue that prevents them from really working as a metaphor or a symbol for underprivileged and disenfranchised, minority communities. The problem is like it doesn't work, that analogy, when the people themselves in some cases have the power to destroy the entire earth all by themselves. Like when these characters are actually incredibly dangerous to have in public, that makes that difficult to actually do that one for one analogy. So that's always something that I think the X-Men in particular have had a difficult time grappling over the years.
So Joe,
because it used to be that the X-Men were underdogs.
Yeah. So Joe, kind of talking about Children of the Atom that's coming out, the way it looks to me is it's going to be humans that are using apparatus to like imitate their whatever mutant hero that they look up to. Like one kid looks like he's imitating Cyclops, another kid looks like he's kind of imitating, Nightcrawler, stuff like that. Do you think that's what that comic is actually going to be, and do you think they could get similar blowback with it's almost like a trans analogy?
I don't think it'll get that same kind of blowback because the way it looks, and I might be wrong, but the way it looks from the previews and what I've seen about it is it's more of these younger people, these kids doing these things to kind of like with these characters they look up to, that it's more in line with like a Miss Marvel who, a Kamala Khan who loves superheroes and geek culture and gets sucked into that, or like a Faith at Valiant, like that kind of like those kind of characters. It seems more in line with that, and that they end up doing some stuff with the X-Men from there. It feels like the kind of IP that Disney would want to develop, because Children of the Atom seems like a Saturday morning cartoon show kind of IP. Mm-hmm. That like, oh, you guys should do this thing because we can really sell a cartoon of these like kids who look up to the X-Men and want to be like the X-Men.
Well, at least they nuked the sidekicks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, that was gonna be a nightmare.
So let's transition over to the other problem with the retconning of the Fantastic Four characters. I don't think Dan Slott handled it very well, because he went essentially like on a 24-hour apology fest. He probably should have just issued one blanket apology addressing the issues that people were having, and then he like slowly over time began losing his mind and kind of exploding on the readers themselves. I don't know, Gervais. Was his crisis management good in this case? Because I think he really did himself no services. Because in 30 minutes something else was going to happen on Twitter that made people mad.
Yep. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stop an SJW when they start apologizing. I mean, it just comes out. I mean, it just...
Well, everybody's like that.
It's like a rush.
Blood in the water. It's chum. Once you start apologizing, everybody wants their apology.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think I always go back to, and I'm going to kind of go off comics with Dave Chappelle. So like when Dave Chappelle's show first came out, it was like there were people who understood, or who at least made their voice clear, that they didn't appreciate some of the content that Dave was putting out in that show, particularly the use of the N-word and things like along those lines. And I remember saying to a lot of those people at the time, I said, look, this is what Dave has to do. He just has to have his story straight when somebody calls him on it. And so basically he went on to the Charlie Rose show. Charlie Rose called him on it, and he basically said he's like, it's presenting culture. Like this is my culture. It's like kind of like Russell Simmons was saying in hip hop at one point, when it was just kind of like rap music was just kind of like, He was like, well, it's street reporting. It's street reporting. You got to come up with your cover story for what you know is obviously controversial content. So the problem that happened with Dave Chappelle was that, as some may know, he went to a taping one time and he saw one white guy in the audience laughing a little too hard. Like, other words, he wasn't laughing with him, he was laughing at him. And Dave got shook, went off to South Africa. He didn't necessarily do an apology tour, but then he kind of, I guess, found his place where he didn't give a crap anymore what he said anymore. He ends up winning the the Mark Twain Award, and now he tells all his haters to shut the F up forever. So I say all that to say this: if you're going to do certain things and do certain stories, you have to really know for yourself why you're doing what you're doing, why you're writing what you're writing, why you're saying what you're saying. Because when people come to challenge you on it, you got to be ready with the defense. And then, because to apologize for it then kind of almost indicates the way you either didn't think it through in the first place, or you just said, well, I don't give a F and put it out there. And then once you realize the fire was too hot for it, now you're going to do this hasty retreat. And now you come off as inauthentic and just kind of messing around. It was like Doc said earlier, it seems like at some points you guys are just throwing stuff out there to see if we'll still pay for this BS. And oh, watch, now I'm going to do this. And they'll be mad about it, but they'll still shell out their $4 anyway. So if you're going to apologize for something, do it once, get in, get out, get off the social media and get off the internet. But this rolling apology thing, it was too much. It was too much. It was just too much. Yeah. So do something and stand by it, or don't. If
Slott at his age, and with how much he's contributed to the completely toxic discourse on comics Twitter, and comic books in general, when it comes to the relationship between fans and creators. He should
really
realize,
has.
but yeah, he has. He's one of the main culprits of it. But he needs to realize by now that every time he responds, all he's doing is perpetuating what is otherwise an infinite feedback loop.
Fueling the fire.
Yeah, every apology is more gasoline. The only thing that ends it is starvation of oxygen.
Yep.
It's the same thing with, allegations of racism or sexism or any other sort of allegations. The only way for them to go away is to not even address them. That's because that's the nature of social media.
So
you address
Joe,
it.
I know you're an editor. You've put out comics that maybe deal with kind of controversial issues. Do you talk with your creators before it's published and say, hey, this is what we might receive, this is the game plan, like be prepared? Or do you got to just wait to see what happens?
Oh no, like when I go over scripts, and I have before, and I have pointed things out to people, like I'm like, look, I know you. I know what you think about certain things. I know the things that, you stand for. Other people don't. And when they read this line or they see what you're doing, they can take this out of context. And I can tell them that and then just be like, if it's up to you if you want to put it in. I strongly suggest, you change the line or you change this bit. There are, just like things to just be aware of. And I'm not just saying that as, oh, you're a good person and you got to show everyone you're so great so that everyone tells you you're wonderful. It's not just about that. It's about not getting
into the shit.
Exactly. You don't want the work to be tainted and have everyone just talking about your book because you decided to do this thing.
And they control the narrative of how people feel about it.
Yeah. And almost every time people just make the change because it's always these minor things. It's never like a major plot point. It's like someone saying like a remark off the cuff or something like that. And it's just like, do you really want to derail your entire comic or graphic novel because, Bleeding Cool or someone's going to take that one panel and then put it on blast, and then everyone's, no matter what you've done in your life, will come at you for a couple of days over it. I understand where Dan Slott gets upset about some of this stuff. I've met Dan a few times. He's always like nice and personable, like in person. He's good at working a line, like of people coming up, signing stuff. The social media thing is the kind of thing where he gets stuck. And I get that Dan, I think we would all agree, is very open about how he feels about things and where he lands on certain issues. I don't think he makes it a secret at all. So I get that initial gut reaction of how could some of these people, that you see talking about it are people that for a fact he's met or worked with or has seen at cons that are saying these things. And, there is that like gut punch of like, how could this person just like pile on me when they know who I am? It's the matter of needing to be able to check out for a couple of days and then just go about your day as opposed to getting into it. But there is that psychological thing of like, oh, like this person that I've known for like, 20 years is saying this about me, like where I get that impulse to be like, oh, well, let me see who else is saying stuff. If that person who I trusted is saying this, what are people I trust less saying about me? So I get how you can get caught up in that. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's a good response. I'm just saying I get how it happened.
Oh, I do too.
You have to,
And because Dan, let's I mean, as much as I don't want the to have to be sitting here defending Dan Slott because I think he's a shitty person.
He is.
He's always surprised when the shit that he's pulled on other creators comes back to bite him too, because he's done the same shit to other people.
That's what all of the woke crowd does, though. I mean, they always it's like a room full of cats in a rocking chairs. It's like they know that it's sooner or later the chair's going to come down on their tail too. But they still keep doing it.
It's Highlander for virtue signaling.
It really is. It's like, they know that sooner or later they're going to have to beg for forgiveness too. But they still keep going at each other for blood. It's just, what the hell?
Because it replenishes their supply.
I guess.
It's a vampire circle suck.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's just, if I have to just trash this person so I can build myself up because next month I'm going to be trashed. It's like, it's human centipede of woke crap. But yeah,
because I think when it comes to social media, I think at some point you have to learn at some point everyone's entitled to their opinion. Not facts, but definitely to their opinions. And because I have done it on social media, because I'm sure that there's plenty of evidence out there, you can get sucked into that tit and tat and that back and forth. And it's really not productive. It's just not productive. Really is that, you just make your point, you say your piece, and you keep it moving, and hopefully you engage with those people who are actually asking you genuine questions about what your view is or how you got to that. But I mean, there is, like I said, for me, the most recent example of what Doc and Paley were just talking about was just the whole Me Too times up thing. And it was just like some of us were screaming from the valley, like, don't do this. Because somebody on your side is going to come around, and this stuff that you guys are saying right now, they're going to be able to throw it right back in your face. And all you can do is basically throw the guy that you have to protect, that you want to protect, under the bus. Or you have to be a complete and total hypocrite and just say, well, that's not important right now. Let's talk about this thing over here.
Creators don't have problems being hypocrites.
Humans don't have problems being hypocrites.
There you go, exactly.
They absolutely don't.
It's just because of hypocrisy. It's just like, dude, if you feel a certain way about something, then guess what? You better start thinking about it and extrapolating into other circumstances and situations, because people don't forget. They don't have the ability to forget thanks to good old social media and the internet. So if you're going to say certain things, you better be real sure about where you stand on it, because people are going to call you out on it, and in some cases, rightfully so.
Well, I think one of the problems with comics being such a close-knit community, I think there's probably a lot of pressure behind the scenes. Like, you haven't said anything about this. This is out there.
Yep.
We're all putting our and even if you didn't want to, you almost have to go out there. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an entire group of people that are known for being ass grabbers, but ass grabbing is going to be the next great sin, and they're planning on it. It's like, what the hell? What are you people doing?
This is one of the reasons why I still keep coming back to most comic creators should not be on social media as themselves. Not as themselves. Be, Dan 45237. Or Big Fat Slott. Or
don't go there.
But don't be yourself. And if you do need to have a professional, have a professional one that literally all you do is promote. You turn off notifications on. And if you want to engage people without them knowing who you are. But I think to a lot of them, they need, I get it. Comics is a solitary, business. Just that interaction with other people, good or bad, is important because they otherwise don't get it. I mean, I work in an office, so I'm interacting with people all fucking day. I kind of want to, honestly, half the time I wish I could just shut off social media just to have some peace and goddamn quiet. But when you're working by yourself all the time, and let's be honest, a lot of comic creators, in addition to working in a solitary hobby, they're not exactly the most well socialized people on the planet.
No.
Well, no, exactly.
I mean, 60 hours. 60 hours of my work week is 60 hours of my work week is working by myself. So I use social media as a way to kind of break the, kind of get a little bit of the interaction with people, But and I can see that they have that problem too, but oh God, make an alternate account, do something else. Don't be a blue check out there just beating the shit out of people the way they do. It's just
and I've gone to a couple of seminars about this, and that's exactly what they tell you. They say, people ask, well, how do you share your political views on social media? And they'll tell you that to your face. Look, you have your social media profile, which is all about your business, your professional life. That's what you talk about that. You can have your personal page where you do all that stuff. And if somebody wants to be intrepid enough to go and find out, Sam LLC is actually Sam Johnson over here, and this is what he's all about. And that's still their opinion. They don't know the facts. They're going to run off on it. But I want to just reference from Heroes to Icons here, because I'm with him. If you're going to use yourself as your social media profile like I do, sitting on the camera so everybody knows exactly who I am, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. And if you don't know what you mean, it's my advice to you, don't say nothing. Just don't say nothing. Just don't say a word. Like I said earlier.
It's like Mark Hamill's got that problem. He's like Jekyll and Hyde, motherfucker. He'll be the sweetest guy in the whole world, and then just his TDS comes out, and all of a sudden, he's got fangs and he's ready to tear his own
Mark
fans
Hamill's
apart.
is a cultural icon.
He's a beautiful man in certain ways. He's a wonderful human being, and then every once in a while, it's like, whoa, Mark, that's one of your fans. You shouldn't be tearing him to pieces like this. But
some people just need to learn when to shut the fuck up on social media.
There you go. That's right.
Good point. So let's move on to our final topic of discussion. We know Future State is basically going to be DC Comics in January and February. There's going to be some Black Label books, but it's mostly going to be Future State. I went through the solicitations for DC Comics. We were looking at the characters, and one of the characters, it wasn't just me. I'm sure a lot of people, when they saw Joelle Jones' cover for the new Wonder Woman Yara 4, were like, well, that character is very interesting. It's a very visually appealing character. And I said, last week, I was like, if they're going to roll out one character, I bet you that's the first one they do. The next day, they announced that there is going to be a Yara 4 Wonder Girl comic coming out from DC Comics starting in March. And there's also in production a Yara 4 Wonder Girl CW series that's going to be part of the Arrowverse. I don't know. Pele, were you surprised about this?
Who?
Yara 4, the new Wonder Woman.
I know. I'm just messing. Who? Well, she looks hot. I guess that if she's kind of cool, I guess people will buy it because she looks hot. If they let her be hot, then it'll work well.
Absolutely.
I'm buying that book for all the wrong reasons.
If they let her be a hot chick that fights crime, then it'll sell like gangbusters. If they don't, and they try to do a DC's version of Miss Marvel with her, watch out. It's gonna crater like there's no other.
I think
the lady.
I think they're jumping the gun, and this is starting to feel a little Mosaic. For those that remember that disaster of an attempted okay, you get there's a thing that publishers used to realize. You get that initial buzz, and then you say, okay, let's try to capitalize on this. And they capitalized on it by making a great comic. You already won the first battle. Don't try, you're starting to seem like the Germans in World War II, where you decided to jump into every battle after that. Now you have to try to sell a comic, a TV show, without the character having ever appeared on anything other than a promotional poster.
Yep.
And
Yeah, but this is already
saying-
obviously planned months before we even heard of the character. This has already been in production.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. Once again, this comes back to publishers thinking they get to decide what the fuck is popular. They don't.
I'm taking a different stance on this one. I think they're using what we're seeing in Future State as a springboard for new ideas moving forward. And technically, Doc, it doesn't matter if they sell one issue of Future State comic books. If they get a Yara 4 character on the little screen that is very popular, they can sell backpacks. If they can put it in a movie and stuff, it'll all have been worth the effort because it'll make it a lot of money.
Yeah, great if it works, but they're trying to fight too many battles and sell it on too many levels without ever having sold it once to fans. They haven't
like
sold
trying to
the
rank
fans
it,
on it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
I kinda
it's
think
like
the cart before the
Go ahead,
horse
Dave.
a little bit. I don't
I
know.
Well,
thought
it's a good
everyone was
card.
mad when Baby Yoda came out and they didn't have plushies ready.
That's fair.
that's different. Yeah, okay.
That
That
is
is Yoda,
character,
though.
everyone was like, that character looks great. And you find out there's a series coming right up after it.
Yeah, but Yoda was an established character, and this is just like a little Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Everybody loved Yoda already.
okay. That it is a valid point, but
Wonder Woman's an established character. This is a younger version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, but-
except for it's not.
Not
It's
really.
not
It's
a,
not the same
a younger version of Wonder Woman because it's not Diana Prince or whatever the hell
but
she's
Baby
doing.
Yoda's not actually Yoda.
Yeah, he is. He's a genetic copy.
Yeah. But the thing is that
Spoil
the first,
me, fucker.
no, he didn't.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah,
I haven't watched any of this
But the
season yet.
yeah. But the thing is,
That's
first thing with Mosaic
it's
is
that's just the theory, Doc. It's not been confirmed. But,
But the thing is, Mosaic is not pretty. So that was the first thing. He wasn't pretty. Yara
Yes.
Floor is pretty.
but at the,
And-
but at the
and-
same time, Mosaic was trying to sell from being a professional NBA player. That was the whole point of his character. It was trying to sell off of the back of that, the same way that Yara Flor is trying to sell off the back of Wonder Woman.
All right, but I'll say this now. I remember the Mosaic character. I never dipped my toe in that water. I never got. Then that was just poor marketing promotion all around. All I'm saying is, Yara Flor is pretty. Now she got my attention right away. Now I don't know where the character's going to go, what they're going to do with it, but so far so good. In terms of putting the cart before the horse, like I said, this is a pretty damn good cart to put before the horse. So we'll see how it works out.
I wish they'd put this much effort into other DC characters because fans like I'll pick another one, Shark Boy. People really want to see a lot more of Shark Boy in the comics, but
Who?
it's a character
Shark
in
Boy
DC.
and Lava Girl?
No, Shark Boy. It's like people are like, "Oh, I like Shark Boy. He's pretty cool. How come we don't have him in other comics?"
Once again, who?
Yeah, whatever.
I literally
Yara
don't have a
Flor-
fucking clue who Shark Boy is.
But
No,
it's
Yara
just-
Floor is just a better version and a better experiment than America Chavez. That's what it is. It's just they got this one right. At least visual, they got this one right. So I'm willing to check it out and see where they go with it.
I don't know, Joe. Do you think it's good for DC and the Warner Media to have such confidence in a character that they've already got the series ready? They've already got the TV show in production?
I think they need to because, and this is in part that Wonder Woman as a franchise they want to build out. You have all these other characters, like the Batman family, Superman family, Spider-Man family, all the X-Men characters. Wonder Woman has a few ancillary characters that people know, like Donna Troy, but they need to kind of build out that franchise, not just to, nickel and dime everybody and milk it, but Wonder Woman needs a shot in the arm because as a comic, there are very few well-regarded runs. It's often just a comic that falls to the wayside. People don't really know what to do with. Right now has been pretty solid, but like how many Wonder Woman comics has anyone here really recommended to anybody outside of like maybe the George Perez run and a couple of other things? But like, how many times have people been like, I need to go back to the golden age of Wonder Woman and read to the present? Like, that's a franchise that needs a shot in the arm. They need to give it a more solid direction. Even with the movie coming out, you got the second movie and it's like, oh, she's gonna, fight, like Maxwell Lord and Cheetah, and it's like, oh, already fought, the God of War. So like, who else is there? It's like she doesn't have this like well-known, regarded rogues gallery. She doesn't have a lot of these things. So to start doing something, maybe use Yara Flor as a way to get people more acquainted with Wonder Woman and to build out that IP is probably a good idea.
That's a valid point. That's a very valid point. I mean, Wonder Woman, for most of its existence, the title's existence, has been on about par with Captain America and Iron Man. They're steady, they're middling, but they stay in print forever. They keep an ongoing series. They never have anything it's never the top seller. It's always outside of that top 25 or around there. But it can stay, but it's got a dedicated, kind of core fan base that sticks around forever.
Doesn't DC lose the rights to Wonder Woman if they stop publishing the comic?
I believe so, but when we get into a lot of the rights issues with books like with stuff like the Batman character, Superman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, that gets into complicated stuff. I don't know what the exact agreement is on a lot of those things.
I'd just like to shout out Ben David for a minute. He's like, he is right. I am blinded by Yara Flor's eyes. Go ahead, Doc.
I do agree, though, but at the same time, they haven't. I don't know if building out the Wonder Woman franchise by not actually improving the rogues gallery of Wonder Woman is the way to do it. Adding more allies without creating more new notable villains, I don't think really helps. Or I mean, it just seems like it's. My problem is you start getting into a lot more of one of the things I've never really liked about DC Comics, which is their legacy and the resulting character dilution. It's the reason why I've never been a huge DC fan.
Well, let me ask you this then, Doc, because you make me think about the Iron Man film franchise. And with Iron Man, I thought the success of it wasn't necessarily that he had necessarily this great rogues gallery either. Especially you look at the second film, the best they can come up with is Whiplash. But I thought the success of that was they just made Iron Man an interesting character to begin with. That's what seemed to be the strength of that particular series and that interpretation of it, which didn't seem to necessarily translate into the comics.
Yes, exactly. There's a reason why nobody talks about Iron Man 1 was solid because it was the start of something. Nobody talks about the story of Iron Man 2 or 3 because they weren't terribly interesting. The only thing that kept bringing people back was Robert Downey Jr.'s charisma. Yep. That's it. Yep. If those movies would have recast or done something, and they had to go on the strength of the film alone, they'd be giant failures.
You don't think Avengers had people coming back just so they could be ready for the next team up?
No, well, I think when you get into Avengers, that's a whole different story because now you're dealing with at least a few, like at least the first Avengers, you had a charismatic, interesting villain in Loki.
Yeah, but it felt like the Marvel Studios made it feel like you needed to watch every single MCU movie to be prepared for the next Avengers movie.
Oh yeah, but standing on their own, Iron Man 2 and 3, the same way that they are, the same way Thor 2 was. The only good trilogy you got out of the MCU was
Captain America.
Because there were interesting villains for all of the movies. It's one of the reasons
they were
why
different
they were so
genre of films. It feels like they're repeating the same stuff over and over in some of those movies.
Yeah. So, but Iron Man, even the success of the films was never able to really, other than for a short period of time, post Secret Wars, catapult Iron Man to being a top-selling book, and it's back to being a middling book, because that's what it is. Some franchises are what they are.
So apparently, should fans of Donna Troy be upset? There already was an established Wonder Girl. She has, she's a fairly popular. Are they kind of throwing her to the wayside for Yara Flor?
Kind of feels that way, doesn't it? It's like this they want new and shiny, I guess. Instead of what the character that's already out there. So, I guess they are. So it's I don't know if they have plans for that other character to kind of team up along the way, but it's you have a established Amazonian, the younger Amazonian. So, and now you've got this one. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with rights issues. Maybe it has something to do with the creator. They don't want to pay that creator. So, I don't know. I guess that's probably it. I think
people be upset if they're Donna Troy or Cassie Sandsmark fans?
I don't think so. I think this is like just their. I could see the mindset behind Warner, AT&T being like, well, if these characters were going to do it, they would have done it already. So we need a new character, and going for something like that. And again, I think it's because they're looking at Spider-Man and Batman and all these characters being like, these guys got like dozens of kids running around in costumes. We need dozens of Wonder Women running around. And to really build that out, we need Wonder Woman Incorporated. We need the Wonder Woman verse. We need all this stuff to really, tap in. Like I think that's kind of the mentality is we need to build out this franchise, and I could see the people there kind of being like, Wonder Woman's one of the oldest superheroes around. Like, why are we sitting on this? Wonder Woman should be a gold mine. Like if I were higher up at AT&T and I was like looking at all this stuff, I would have probably thought that Wonder Woman was a bigger deal than she was.
Based on the movies, you would think that.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny about that? You know what's so hilarious about that? They destroyed the Super Sons when they had two characters that would have been awesome to put into that role as, hey, we could have sold costumes and we could have done all this other kind of stuff for young people and everything to get them into it. But no, let's just destroy Connor Kent and we'll just go on our way.
They could have done the tween trinity with a younger, either.
Well, yeah, Cassie Sandsmark running around in just Young Justice.
Yeah, Cassie with Damian and John would have been
not Connor, John.
Yeah, would have been. They could have done a tween trinity book with that would have probably blown the doors off.
Yeah, it would have sold like crazy.
And really made, one of the existing Wonder people into a household name.
Yep.
So I do have to ask, just looking at the characters, do we see any of the other characters coming out of Future State and getting their own series this year? I think we will see a new, whatever the new Batman is, whether it be Luke Fox or Tim Fox, I think we will see that Batman have his own miniseries.
Miniseries would be better than ongoing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think we'll see that Batman, or do you see any of the other characters coming out of Future State?
You'll see that Batman.
Yeah, if it's anything like, if it's anything like what DC tends to do, they'll roll out these characters, have them be a regular supporting character in an ongoing for a little bit, maybe get a miniseries, then they'll change the name of the character and have them just randomly appear other times if they remember.
Yeah.
Like they'll just, I think. They're going to push Yara Flor, but like these other like Batman, it'll be like, oh, we'll come up with a new name for you, and you'll just, Nightwing, Batwing, spoiler, whatever, you're that now, and you pop up
Signal.
Yeah, the Signal. And you'll pop up again some other time, or like, they do that so often in Batman, but yeah, I think you'll see something like that, and you'll probably get that with that new Kid Flash, like Jess Quick, I think's their name.
Jess Chambers, I believe it is.
Jess Chambers, yeah, that's
from Earth 11.
So, yeah, from Earth 11, they'll probably pop up and be around, be a supporting character briefly. They'll come up with another name, and then they'll just be in and out occasionally when they feel like it, or for an event or something.
Yeah,
they certainly do that a lot with Flash family.
Yeah,
because they're always traveling through time.
How are there so many of these Flash like that's another like IP where it's just like, why are there so many speedsters? Like it's just a little ridiculous.
The only
Speed Force lets them appear anywhere.
Speedsters.
Yeah,
I've slow them down.
Yeah, I've long ago stopped giving. I think there's too many Bat people, too many Spider people, too many Super people, too many Flashes, too many Lanterns.
Too many Human Lanterns.
Yeah.
God, way too many fucking Human
There's like 9 Human Lanterns now.
And honestly, too many Wonder people, too many Iron people. There's too many of all of them, and none of it, all the uniqueness that really catapults characters into becoming household names is lost.
Yep, it does. It happens.
Yeah, you can only have
constantly.
You can only have the original, the female version, the kid version, and then after that, if you go to the dog, you're pushing it. But anyway, that's it's just
Superman jumped the shark
Crypto's
with the
awesome.
Superdog a long time ago.
No, Crypto is awesome, but Ace was not.
Ace is awesome.
Ace the Bat Hound.
Batman Beyond.
Fuck your shit up.
Wow. I hope Bat Cow doesn't hear this.
Oh Lord, Batmite was cool. I loved Batmite when I was a kid.
We are coming up to the end of the show. I think we covered all the subjects pretty well in depth. We hit up future state yard fly here at the end. We talked about is DC Comics characters going to save HBO Max? Obviously, Wonder Woman 1984, the Snyder Cut coming there, Ten of Swords update. Doc and I have a full video talking about all 3 issues in depth on the channel tomorrow. The Franklin Richards retcon in the subsequent meltdown by Dan Slott. There will be a video on that tonight if you want to get our full thoughts on that as well. But it's time for some comic book recommendations. Gervain, did you read anything good this week? You got anything to recommend, or are you going back issues?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back issues. So I'm gonna think. I think it was Doc who brought this up in the live chat because it is a great series to check out, and that's Planetary. I haven't read that in a bit, but I would highly recommend Planetary to anybody who just wants to see cool alternate versions of basically a lot of comic book and pulp hero stereotypes. It's it definitely runs into decompressed storytelling kind of a bit, but it is cool decompressed storytelling.
And
so
every issue is standalone though.
Yep, and that's true. And that's one of the saving the graces of it. It is standalone. So I would definitely do that. And I also would recommend so far I'm digging because I finally got a chance to sit down with it last night. Ultraman, Rise of Ultraman. I know that's not like
Kyle Higgins is good.
But yeah, Kyle Higgins and some good, even though you got 2 pages from McGinnis with some good art from Ed McGinnis, Michael Cho, and Francesco, I think it's Miana, who does the main stuff. That first issue was a good read. I'm looking forward to the next couple of them.
Absolutely. All right, Joe. I know we've talked about you being a comic book writer. I'm sure you got some new comics to talk about. But if somebody was like, "What is Joe Corallo written? What is he all about?" Do you have any recommendations on like your portfolio that people should maybe go check out, or obviously new comics as well?
Yeah, well, I guess as far as that goes, the TKO Shorts #1 that I co-wrote with Liana Kangas that Paul Ezeketa illustrated, Seeds of Eden, is available now through TKO Studios. It's $2.99. It's zine sized, and there's 2 other shorts. If you like that kind of stuff, I would definitely go and check it out. And TKO's doing some really solid stuff. They're working with people like Garth Ennis, Steve Epting, Jeff Lemire. And yeah, definitely check out TKO. They're doing some really interesting stuff. And in terms of some of the stuff I've been reading, the current Wonder Woman that Mariko Tamaki is writing is actually it's solid. I think the most recent issue came out last week, but it is genuinely just it's jarring because it's just like a normal superhero comic where there's an overarching plot, but every issue or 2 she beats a bad guy or she solves a puzzle or something, and we move on to the next thing. And it's refreshing to be reading a comic like that. And then I also just Julian was also making me think of this. I'm currently, back issue wise, I'm rereading the Silver Age Legion of Superheroes. And
Yes.
right, it's incredible. And right now, they have the whole omnibus set that contains the entire Silver Age run. It goes right up to the end of the Action Comics issues, right before Carrie Bates takes over with Dave Cockrum, and that really launches the Bronze Age of the Legion. So you can get the hardcover sets, and they also, I don't think they finished doing the half-size trade paperback versions of them, but the first few are available. And if you don't want to commit to a trade or an omnibus because you're like, I'm not just going to drop, $40, $70 because some guy in a stream told me to, you can pick up Superboy 147. That is a giant size, you can find a copy for $10, or less in a back issue bin or on eBay. And it's an 80 page oversized that does telling of the Legion origin, written by E. Nelson Bridwell, who's just a legend in terms of Legion and DC editorial. And it has other stories, including the first appearance of Supergirl with the Legion, the first time they fight the Legion of Supervillains. So yeah, that's I think that wraps my recommendations. Then.
Isn't there also a free comic that you wrote from Vault available?
Oh, well, if we're going to do that too, sure. Go to Vault Comics website. They have She Said Destroy, which I wrote and Liana Kangas drew. It's free, the first issue, and then you could buy all of it digitally for $10. I think's the price, and then it's available in trade, on their site or Amazon or anywhere you want to go.
Boom. So you can get a taste of the goods, folks, and see what Joe brings to the table as a writer. Thank you so much for those recommendations.
No problem.
Next up, Doc, what are you recommending this week? You recommending Ten of Swords?
I'm recommending turning them into confetti, and that actually, you know what? I think I'm going to recommend doing the same thing I recommend doing to X-Men Red, which is go find every single copy that was ever published, every piece of original art, every email between editors, every copy of a note written on the back of a bar napkin, put them all into a space shuttle, shoot them into the fucking sun, and pretend it never happened.
There you go.
Wow, yeah.
But I do recommend reading Venom 30. It was good.
It was good.
And especially it's a good kind of ending for the that Venom Beyond story they were doing, and a kind of a great little lead into what we're going to be getting in King in Black, which I am looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it gives us a good insight into who Noel really is.
It does. It gives a little bit more of an insight, and maybe some of his weaknesses. I'm looking. I didn't read ASM yet this week, so I'm still 2 issues behind. I didn't read this issue or last issue yet, so don't spoil me yet. But I have enjoyed Last Remains to that point. So and I've heard good things that these issues are pretty good. Otherwise, I recommend back issues. I will second Javane's recommendation of Planetary, especially considering that the villains of it are analogs of the Fantastic Four called the Four. And they are the main villains of it, and it brings up a lot of the points that people were making in comments about how the Fantastic Four are a bunch of shallow assholes and selfish jerks. But if you want something from around the same era, the Authority, that was also done by Warren Ellis, instead of Ellis and John Cassaday on Planetary, you had Ellis and Brian Hitch on the Authority. And then finally, because people have started kind of coming around to this, and I've gotten a couple of DMs about it, and everybody's been super happy. Invincible. Go read Invincible.
Yeah.
Between the show coming up soon, you will have, it is seriously the best superhero comic of the 21st century.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So, Riley, what are you recommending down at the shop?
Okay, Venom number 30, Symbiote Spider-Man King in Black number 1. The True Believers on these, if you want to pick up some of the peripheral stuff about King in Black, it's $1. They're each $1. They're awesome. Anytime you can pick up a decent comic for $1, do it. And personally, my personal pick is just keep buying Last God. Just keep buying it. You know, it's the best comic that DC makes.
I would agree with that. So this week I am recommending We Live, the first and second issue. If you haven't read them, it's from the Miranda brothers at Aftershock Comics. That is the best new comic series I personally have read in 2020. I think it's fantastic. It's like a sci-fi dystopian future kind of quest story, and I think it was absolutely amazing. Blew my socks away. I didn't expect it to be that good. Something Is Killing the Children number 12 is absolutely terrific. A new series called Sea of Sorrows, I believe that's from Image, was good as well. And that's what I'm recommending. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you're looking for the HBO Max talk, we did that at the beginning. And this was a lot of fun, and we will see y'all next week. Salamapo.
Yep. Take care, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.
I'll show